Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. It's your host, Poonam here. I'm thrilled to introduce today's special guest, a dedicated professional, a loving mom, and a passionate community leader. This episode is part of our Autism Awareness Special, where Dr. Sudha Krishnan will share her personal journey of raising a child with autism. She will also discuss how this experience inspired her to dedicate her life to supporting other parents navigating similar challenges. Welcome, Dr. Sudha. Can you please introduce yourself to those who are listening to you for the first time?
Thank you, Poonam. I'm really excited to be here. I am a parent with a child with autism. Not a child anymore. He's an adult of 30 years old. I have been in the special education field for a long time, first as a parent, then as a middle school teacher, teaching students largely with autism, but also other disabilities. And then now finally I have moved on to teaching in the credential program at San Jose State University in the Department of Special Education. So my life at home and my professional life have revolved around special education. And this is who I am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sudha. Can you share a little more about your journey as a mother to an autistic child?
Sure. I remember that when my son Santosh was born, I already had an older child, and there were many red flags that I noticed during his early infanthood. And when he was an infant, that I would feel that he did not smile at me. He was smiling though, and but it didn't seem as though he was smiling at me or recognizing my face. And when I would bring this up to the pediatrician would say, no, he's meeting all his milestones. In the 1990s, when he was born, it was not, autism was not still very commonly diagnosed by pediatricians. And it took a long time for the diagnosis to happen. And we had moved to India in the meantime. He was born here, and when we moved to India, my father, who actually passed away last year, he was the one who noticed. He said that no, something is wrong. Your child is 18 months old and he's still not speaking. And so he compelled me, though I was very reluctant to do it, he compelled me to go to a psychologist. And the psychologist, within 30 seconds, and this was in India, looked at him and said, do you know that your child is autistic? And it took me, I mean, there was, there's a very different way of communicating in India. The doctors are direct and the psychologists are direct, and they do not think a lot about what is going through a parent's mind, and they expect you to handle it. I did not handle it well. I was shaken, and I grieved a lot. And I remember that I could not stop the tears from pouring from my eyes throughout the day because I felt something terrible had happened to me. I felt like it was a disaster in the family, and it shook me and my husband up completely. And this, we had never heard of these things before in our family. And so when I look at all those things, now I realize, now after all these years of reflection and learning about disability and how we perceive disability, I realize that all that was the society's ableist attitude, that something is wrong. If your child has a disability, it's exceptional, it is not normal, it is something to grieve about, it's a disaster, it's a misfortune, it's a curse, call it what you will. And those were my feelings when my child was very young, that somehow something bad had happened to our family. And I ran from pillar to post, from therapist to therapist, from doctor to doctor, trying to remedy the situation. We could not find we could not find good therapy in India. Unfortunately, we had our green card, our permanent residency here, so we came back to the US and we enrolled him in the public school. And I, fought to get speech therapy and occupational therapy and physical therapy and whatever, we tried everything. Nothing seemed to work, though I had trained myself in, ABA, that is applied behavior analysis, and I tried to train myself in every new therapy that I found. And in fact, I got so much of training that I got interested in the special education field. And in one of the meetings, when actually we were putting the school district on notice, it was a very confrontational meeting. And then the director said, if you think special education is so easy, why don't you teach in one of our classrooms? And then I said, yes, if you give me a job, I will. And then I started teaching after, they hired me, and I started teaching in a classroom. And then my experience with disability and disabled students became very different. When I saw all the students and I learned more, I got my credential and I learned more about disability and I learned more about education. Then there was a kind of a more acceptance of the fact that disability is just a variation in typical human behavior. So my journey as a mother was traumatic in the beginning, and then I came to accept my child because of my professional understanding of disability. And I think he became happier when I learned to accept him for who he was. I think in the early ages, when I was pushing him to therapy and taking him from one place to another, I could see his anxiety growing. He was not a happy child. I feel, in a way, I robbed him of his childhood. And when I relaxed after my getting, the job and understanding what disability is, and it's not so exceptional, and it cannot look at it as a misfortune, because there's so much of joy, there's so much of goodness, and so much of talent in all our students, regardless of whether they have a disability or not. He became happy. He became happier, and I found that my relationship with him changed. The bonding with him changed, and I began to act more like a mother rather than some kind of a person who is determined to get him out of this state. And even today, I am more relaxed. He is, of course, an adult. He does well enough for himself, in the sense that he goes to a day program and then he comes home. He has his quirks, but we enjoy every minute that we spend with him. And my husband and I often say that if he was not there, we would not know how to amuse ourselves, because he is so funny, and we see all the lovely things that he does, and the love that he shares and the joy that he shares. And so I guess my journey has been one of acceptance and becoming more aware. The disability itself is not a misfortune or a disaster. And the moment you feel that, you transfer those emotions to your child and make their life traumatic. And so, in short, that is my journey.
Thank you, Dr. Sudha, for sharing your journey. I could feel the emotions, but at the same time, the growth you went through, and you learned so much about your own self and changed your own emotions and accepted with love, and that love was transferred to even your son. And I am so touched to listen to that. But I wanted to ask you, what do you wish more people understood about autism?
So I think autism is a very different kind of disability because people with autism tend to have so many quirks. I want to call them eccentricities, right? They may have sensory needs, so they are tactile defensive. They may have self-stimulatory behaviors to regulate their body, so they might be tapping, or they might be waving their hands, or they might want movement breaks. Frequent movement is required. They might like to sing, or they may not. They may like to talk all the time. They may vocalize. They may verbalize all the time. Like my son goes through many phases, and one of his phases that was really tiring for us is that he wanted to tear every paper he saw, and so we could not store any kind of work in my house. And that was a time when I was doing my doctoral thesis, and I would print out stuff to edit, and then he would tear it to bits, and then I would have to print it out all over again. Now, this is like very unique to autism. Some of it is, also overlaps with other disabilities. But the thing that I want people to understand about autism is all these behaviors sometimes come from their genuine needs, their sensory needs. I've had the wonderful opportunity in my career to talk to people with autism. And now that autistic people are leading, leading the charge, so to say, in reforming our educational system, and they're saying how they feel and what is important to them, and they say that when they try to control these behaviors for our sake because we think that it is not normal, that is called masking. That is, they mask their autistic tendencies. After a while, they feel like exploding because their body needs all this. One autistic a student that I had invited to my classroom to speak to my, the pre-service teachers who I train, he said that when he goes to talk to an audience and he tries to keep his hands quiet and tries to control his body movement so that he does not do all the self-stimulatory behavior, after about half an hour, he has to go into a closed room and he explodes. He shouts because that is how much the body needs it. And so, what I want people to understand is when you see a person doing these things, you have to realize that you may think that it is not normal. Why can't they be more normal? It affects them to be more normal. It bothers them to be more normal. And I think as a society, we have to broaden our definition of what is normalcy, and how different bodies need different movements to be normal. And and I think accepting people with all their quirks and their behaviors is what we should be going for as much as possible, as long as they don't, of course, hurt others or whatever. But like tapping on the desk, small things like that, I think we should be able to go beyond that and say, not stare at people for abnormal behavior, but accept it as a normal variation in human behavior. And autism is a normal variation on the human behavior spectrum. And they have some skills, they may not have some skills, they have some abilities, some disabilities, but it's all in the range of human behavior spectrum.
Thank you, Dr. Sudha, for educating us. So, what I understood, they have special needs. Maybe their needs are different than our needs, right? But they are wonderful the way they are, and we need to be accepting them, loving them as they are. Thank you so much for educating me also.
Mhm.
So, what role have teachers, therapists, or support groups played in your child development? And you wish, like others who are listening to us, they also do the same.
Yeah, that is a very good question, and I have to say that I have respected all Santosh's teachers and therapists, and all the kinds of support that he has got throughout his life. He has been very lucky in that all his teachers have been very good, except for a few, maybe after high school, and and he went through a very bad phase when when he moved to high school and beyond. But um, the teacher's role is so important because the student spends almost 6 hours a day, right, in school, and the kind of self-esteem and the kind of um, uh, social groups that they are exposed to at school, they have a big role to play in the child's development. Very often, special education has been seen as actually the special education classroom, especially the segregated classrooms that we have, which are self-contained classes for students with disability, have been actually seen as, by some scholars, not all, seen as centers that provide more trauma to the child rather than help them develop themselves, right? Because they are self-contained, they are segregated from the schools. The students are constantly, stigmatized because they come in a special yellow bus. In fact, in some schools, they're called the yellow bus students, or are you riding on the stupid bus, and so on. There might be bullying that is happening in the school. So the school system actually plays a big role in the child's development, unfortunately, because there is not inclusion and because there is segregated classroom, which is typical of public schools in almost 80% of the cases. You have this kind of the classroom becomes a center of trauma, right? And students are all placed together. All the students with disabilities are placed together. They disturb one another. They may distract one another. There might be behaviors. There might be some instruction. There might not be, my recent research shows that a lot of the time in these self-contained classrooms is wasted in behaviors and paraeducators, that means the instructional assistants who are taking time for their breaks, and teachers who are busy with administrative work rather than instruction, and so on. So I think that we have to understand what the school system in the U.S. Is, and as long as we have the segregated classes and special education classes, we are going to have problems. But the role of the teachers and the therapists is so important because they are, and usually they have the best of intentions. Many people who entered this field are completely devoted to the kids and committed to special education, but then there is a systemic problem that they cannot address because the entire school system is made to separate these students.
Dr. Sudha, so how do you advocate for your child need in school, healthcare, and social settings? As you're saying, it's very important to have a right environment for such kids. So, what if things are not going well? So, how do you advocate for your child?
I think it is very, very crucial for all parents. I mean, and especially in our South Asian community, to push for as much of inclusion as we can, including the student in general education settings as much as we can, making sure that they are taken care of well, that they are safe, and all the, every year the school has to put together an individualized education plan with the annual goals for the child, and to make sure that these goals are being reached in the right way. I think those things all parents have to do. South Asian parents especially, and I want to talk, if it is okay, I want to talk about South Asian parents because I have done some research on South Asian parents. Uh, I found in my research that South Asian parents actually prefer not to include their child in general education settings and actually prefer the self-contained segregated classes because of the terrible stigma that exists in our community regarding disability. So many parents I interviewed said, I send my child to general education settings. What will other parents say about them? What will, they will be like, how do I go and talk to those parents and say, this is my child? And because you know how judgmental South Asian families are when they compare in parties, when they compare one child's progress with another child's progress and how good the academics levels of one child versus the academic levels of another, and all these things came into play in my research when parents said that we actually prefer our child to be shielded from the general education, which is so disappointing, which is so distressing, because we are not providing access to what is considered best practice in special education, that is educating them in the general education setting. Also, I think parents have to be very savvy. If you want to advocate for your child's needs in schools, one of the parents I interviewed said the squeaky wheel, what is it? I forget what the metaphor is. The squeaky wheel gets the oil or whatever. So
Makes more noise. Yep.
yeah, so you have to make more noise and you have to educate yourself really well in how the legal aspects of the education, how the IEP is written, what you can expect from the teacher. And, there are many advocates available and advocacy groups and parent groups. And I think those are the places where parents have to go and make sure that they understand what the legal system is. My own experience in this is when my son was about 4.5 years old. I had asked for ABA therapy, which was very popular during that time. Now it's not so popular, I think. But I'd asked for some particular kind of therapy and occupational therapy because his motor skills were not good. And the district had said no. And somebody suggested that I go to a lawyer. And all I did was to go to a lawyer, and the lawyer wrote a letter saying, we place you on notice for for this student. That was it. That was the letter. I didn't even have to pay the lawyer because they said we'll place this district on notice and see what happens. And the next day I got a call from the district agreeing to all my requests, and they said whatever you want, we can provide. And it just struck me that, oh, and what about a parent who is not savvy or who did not know where to go or what lawyer to, how to deal with the school district? What if the parent is a new immigrant to the country and does not know the language and is having trouble? Then their child's needs will not be met in school because the schools will not provide any more services unless you demand it. So you have to be extremely savvy, and that is the way it works. You have to make noise. You have to make sure that your voice is heard, because your child cannot really at this time advocate for themselves. They are young, and you have to make sure you read about everything that is the best practice in special education and demand that your school meet those best practices.
Thank you, Dr. Sudha. So, what I understand, awareness is the key here. First, accepting the situation, your child's strengths and differences and needs. And after that awareness, advocate for your child, because child definitely can do at that age. But
Mm-hmm.
my question to you is, how do you help others understand and embrace their child unique strengths and needs? As we are saying, some people might not be even accepting or in denial, or they don't know. It's good your father was able to do it. So do you help such parents, making them aware of their own child's needs?
No, I don't. And I think I've got burnt once, and I don't think I would ever do it again. I think that if I, as a parent, see a young child, or already when I see the red flags, my antenna go up, and I say, "Oh my God, this child could have autism." And there have been not once, but a couple of times when I have intervened and I have said that you should get your child, checked. And I have been at the receiving end of parents' anger, and it is it is not, it's not my place to say anything. So I do not comment on people's children anymore. Even if I see the red flags, and I may ask, maybe their relative or something to go and talk to them, because I don't think it is my place. I had the similar experience when my own cousin's child was not developing as well as they would like to think. And when I had gone to India and I noticed it, and I whispered to my dad again, and I said, "He, this child may be autistic." And my dad decided to take it up, because I would not go directly and tell my cousin that your child, because they would, the comment would be that because your child has autism, you see it in other parents' children. So I keep my mouth shut. But like when you say, how do you help others understand and embrace your child's unique strengths and needs? I think our what I can do is to talk about the community as a whole, right? Our South Asian community, for example, we need to change the way we do things. We need to change awareness of autism, and your program is, I hope it reaches maximum number of people, because you're doing such a wonderful job in sharing all the great ideas with everybody. And we need to become more aware of all, not only about autism, not only about disability, but everything else. We need to broaden our horizons, and we need to move away from this narrow focus of being a model minority, and somehow our students are all the geography B winners or the spelling bee winners, and that is the all of them want to go to computer science and whatever. We need to broaden our horizon, and see and accept different people and different abilities and different characteristics and different ideas and creativities, of different individuals as a community, right? And all the things that we that all the stigma that we attach and all the narrowness that we bring to our conversations, I hope we are able to remove that. And once that goes, then I think all children will flourish in our community, because we have so many good things about our community. We have so many groups, and I see, like for example, you have the Navratri Garba group. Those groups can include people with disability, and have and have classes for them or something, along with the Garba that people are doing, so that they don't have to be restricted to organizations that are only for the disabled. They can join in the mainstream. Our religious organizations can help people come together, all people. I'm part of this Chinmaya mission. I go to the classes every week, and then I always think that this Bala Vihar that is there, they can include children with disabilities in their Bal Vihar classes as an example, right? Those are the kinds of changes that I would love to see our community make. That in all the small things that we do, that we bring in different kinds of people and bring in a broadening of our, reach.
Thank you, Dr. Sudha. I feel you're already doing so much because you are sharing your powerful story. You're teaching in the university setting to others, and you are an inspiration. So I wanted to ask you another question. What have you learned about yourself through this journey?
Oh, a lot. And I think every year I learn, when I learn more, I become more and more humble, because I feel there's so much more to learn. It's a never ending process. And I have always wanted to be a teacher. So even though before I started in education, I was an economist and, for a while, an application programmer. But my heart was always in teaching. And I've learned that I love to teach. But what I teach and how I teach has changed over the time uh, that I have taught. And even today, I keep learning new things. I keep meeting new people, and I have a love for learning, and that is what I found in myself. That I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop learning, and I never want to stop sharing what I have learned. So I think that is my lesson. And I think I have grown as a person who is able to uh, accept all the emotions, like you say, all the hurt. I have gone through, feeling of grief, sorrow when my son was diagnosed. I've gone through the hurt through the educational system, because the IEP meetings are pretty hurtful, because you have like five people sitting around a table talking about your child. And there were many hurtful experiences throughout his school age that I learned to accept, and I've grown from each one of them. And I think I've increased because of all these experiences. I have learned to be more mindful about how I feel, acknowledge how I feel, hold it, and learn to deal with it. So I think my emotional growth and my academic growth and everything has been a wonderful journey when I look back on it.
That's so beautiful, Dr. Sudha, because instead of, giving up, complaining about the system, you are rather changing one heart at a time, sharing your story. And I wanted to really thank you for spending time with us, sharing your journey, educating us. To my message to all the incredible parents listening to us today, I want them to take a moment to acknowledge their unwavering love, patience, and dedication, what they are showing to their child. It was so beautiful to talk to you today. Thank you so much. Anything else, Dr. Sudha, you would like to share before we say bye to our listeners?
Yeah, only that all parents need a lot of self-care. So, whether you have a child with disability or not, or a child without disability, you need to take care of yourself, and you need to, do everything that you can to be the best parent you can. And you can only do that if you take care of yourself first.
What a beautiful message to end today's podcast. Thank you, Dr. Sudha, for
Thank
joining
you.
us today.
Thank you. I enjoyed talking on this podcast. Thank
Same
you.
here.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every month, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we thank you so much for listening.